Good morning, everyone. Good evening, whichever time zones you are. Welcome to the second episode of our podcast. Today, I have a special guest, a dear friend who I have been known for the last 2.5 years, Mr. Tom. Right now, he is working in Eco Global Logistics as a senior data scientist. He has a wide variety of experience in the data science and the AI, and also he's also passionate about mentorship and teaching, and he has started a company called Integrated Machine Learning as well, wherein he helps and mentors and guides and enlightens people by his experience in LinkedIn as well. So we have here Tom, and thank you for joining in and agreeing for talking to me. And just a quick introduction about yourself and your journey in this field.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. And thanks for having me, Mohammed. I really appreciate our friendship and being here with you today. I was born and raised in Dallas, Texas, and I was very fortunate, even though it was a big city, even when I was growing up there was 100+ acre field right across the street from me. And that was like my playground. And my dad was an expert machinist, had some old tools, and he let me use anything I wanted. So I just grew up thinking of things I wanted to build and building them, building crazy things. And when I was in high school, I fell in love with physics, even though it was hard for me. And I remember my physics professor was a pretty tough guy and not very sympathetic if you were struggling. But he walked around at the end of the semester and he said, "Tommy, have you decided what you're going to do at college?" I said, "Yeah, I'm going to seek mechanical engineering." And he said, "You'll do well." And that really, that he was such a tough, teacher and thought I would do well, it made me feel really good. And I really struggled the first couple of years in my engineering courses. But then some things really started to click. I started to appreciate differential equations, how to model systems. That was life changing for me. And did some advanced research on optimizing wind turbines, et cetera. Really enjoyed my senior design project. Became really close to my senior design teacher. Then I went off to serve our nation's naval nuclear program, but as a civilian, and went through the same training the officers do. But then when they would go out to the fleet, I stayed back and helped run the training facility because they're real reactors. But I wanted to do more. And so I went to graduate school. I was at first going to go help design the new fast attack submarine at the time, the Seawolf. But the plant managers at the training facility wouldn't let me go because they valued the people that had gotten my training so much. So I said, well, fine, I'll just go to graduate school. And I ended up managing a research reactor in graduate school. And I went back to become I really wanted to be an expert at multi-physical system modeling. I love predictive modeling. Now, at the time, this was with physics, but over the course of grad school, I was introduced for the first time. We didn't call it data science yet. We had neural networks, we had fuzzy logic, we had some things like this. Of course, we used linear regression, we used modeling techniques, but I became one of the noted experts on campus for neural networks. I employed AI in the simulation of my hybrid electric vehicle power plant models from my dissertation when I got my PhD. And then once I left grad school, I had a stronger and stronger emphasis on automating anything I could for the companies I worked for. And sometimes that didn't always make me popular with my managers, which confused me. And it started to dawn on me, I need to seek positions where automation is valued because that's my passion. That's where I think we need to go. And then it was a certain turning point in my career. I got with a cloud engineering expert friend of mine that I really respected. And I said, I'm in a quandary here because I feel like I'm the kind of engineer that codes and does analytics a lot. He said, well, Tom, you're a data scientist. I went, well, yeah. He goes, well, do you know how much those guys make? I said, you're talking to the guy that knows less about current events than anyone. And so he started to educate me. And then I realized I had no online presence. No one saw me as a data scientist. And my terminology for data science was way off. So I just started learning, started to post, started my own blog, and things really turned around. I started getting amazing offers for data science roles. And now I love the role I'm in. I'm given a lot of trust and leeway to architect completely new approaches for the needs that we have at my company.
Great. So, Tom, like one question I want to ask you, and I ask many people whom I talk to, this AI word right now people are using a lot, right? Artificial intelligence, this particular terminology, and specifically after ChatGPT, the people are talking more about this, like conversational AI. So this word AI, artificial intelligence, how, according to you, how will you define it? What all does it include according to you, and how to simplify it for people who are new to this uh, area?
To me, it's always been more about, I know there are some very formal definitions for artificial intelligence, but frankly, I just don't care about those definitions. To me, I look at a need, and now I'm hired for my ability to automate things. So I look at a need, how do I best automate this? But I don't look at trying to come up with one solution for all time. I say, okay, we need to start here. And then as we grow our data, we can go here and here and here. And so it's about the ability to automate, replicate what a human would normally have to do, but faster and more accurately, and improve that over time. To me, any AI work I'm going to look at is going to still follow that same pattern. We've got to have an initial system, but that system needs to be designed in a way so that you can update the components as you progress it.
So the Wikipedia definition of AI that I generally quote is, and you may agree or not, it is the intelligence demonstrated by machines as opposed to intelligence of humans and other animals. So this is
I
the,
like that one.
yeah, this is the
I,
one simple English definition. Because why
I
I'm
like that
asking,
one.
because why I'm asking this, because now before AI, data science, we used to only talk to people who know about them, right? To the technical people, to the technology, to the people. Now what is happening now? Many people are asking about this, how to define AI, and what is this? So now when you talk to people who have no idea about this, it becomes very tough for us to make them understand. There will not be maybe a clear definition. If you go in details, as we know, there's some people say this is not a machine learning, this is not AI, this is not neural network, this is not deep. It becomes too much. But for technical people, it is okay that we can discuss about it in details. But for a person who has no information and is learning first time and is getting used to these terminologies, we may try to make it simple. This is how I believe. And one more thing, why when this question was coming up to me is, uh, people say and people think like about chat gpt that you are saying, this it is by itself, it is thinking and it is doing, it is using it is using its own intelligence. This is what many people was thinking about this when I was talking to them, and I told that it is not using its own intelligence, it has a data behind it, right? As we all know, a large language model that is there, which has been trained from historical data. Then from there only it is deriving. It is not, doesn't have its own intelligence. So this is what we try to tell them. So now coming up to the main topic and of this particular webinar is like, this is a buzzword. Now people want to get into AI. So this is one of the, before it was, as you know, 1990s, machine learning was in. Everyone wanted to become machine learning experts. Deep learning came, and now this AI word is being used, and people want to start getting into AI and start getting the experience. So, what are your thoughts about, if a person really wants to get into AI, what are the things that he needs to first understand, and what is the first initial steps that he needs to do?
So um, to me, the best thing they can do is focus on the basics.
Yes.
And depending on who you meet, they're going to first recommend you get really good at R or really good at Python. Um, I would recommend Python just because you can do a broader range of things with it. But I think R is great too. Um, if you're focusing on that, then you think, well, okay, I've learned Python and I want to get better at it. Now I need a project. Well, now it's time to perhaps get some good video courses from Udemy on uh, machine learning and artificial intelligence and go through those projects. Once you gain some skill of knowing how to, by the way, this doesn't preclude someone not getting a master's or not getting a bachelor's. I'm just saying, don't
Yes.
think that that's all you need to do. I think it's important to have your own learning plan and doing projects outside of the university environment. And that's why I mentioned Udemy. There's some really good teachers on Udemy. Again, Coursera, you name it. I'm just, Udemy is an example. And then once you understand the terminology and the tools, understand that those are basics. They're basic approaches. I I can't, it's been very few times, Mohammed, that in any project I've worked on in industry that I do a true classic machine learning problem. It's more like if we were in martial arts. In most martial arts, they have these basic forms that you learn, and they help develop body skills in the fighting and defensive motions. But you're not going to just tell your opponent in a real fight that I hope you never get into, no, wait, I'm going to do my form and you've got to conform to it. No, now all those projects you did on Kaggle and in an Udemy course or some other site, they prepared you to start to think about the real world. And there's been many times, in fact, I prefer this, where there's a component to a bigger system I'm working on that's just a lookup engine.
Yeah.
It's not doing any machine learning. It's a fancy way to just look up the right answer. And I pray that every component in my system could be that way because there's nothing more accurate. When we have to get into predictions, that's where you have to get clever. And again, you may have a simple machine learning component in your system, but that's going to be rare. And so you have to become very creative. And that's why if you keep working hard on math, various, and not just one area of math, I would be very good at algebra, of course, um, pretty good at trigonometry and calculus. And again, just at the conceptual level, you don't really need to know analytical calculus and analytical trigonometry. You need to understand the concepts really well so you can use the coding tools. And and then linear algebra I find extremely valuable. But a lot of people shy off from that discipline because it can be very complicated to learn it more deeply. Yet, anytime I meet someone in AI or data science research, the thing they long to be better at is linear algebra. And so, as we have opportunities, and this gets full circle back to we're talking to this new person and they're wanting to know how to go about it. Well, master the basics, the math, the coding, and at that point, I would get very good at linear regression and logistic regression. And if you understand those thoroughly and all the things you can add to them, and you really appreciate it, and you're even able to code those from scratch in Python, every lesson you learn afterwards is going to be much easier. And then someone may be thinking, oh, I know David Langer. And by the way, he's a friend of mine. And he encouraged me to go learn decision trees in random forest first. I said, that's also a good path. I would say make that your second thing. But
Yes.
he encourages it first, and I'm not against that. In fact, Kaggle will, in their free education, they take people through decision trees and random forest first. The reason I emphasize linear and logistic regression is because I come from the engineering fields. So
Yeah.
We tend to default to continuous systems. But again, people are worried about uh, learning the sexy, exciting stuff first. Well, you're not going to understand it very well if you don't understand the basics. The foundation to neural networks is linear and logistic regression. And once
Yeah.
you understand those well, now you can go code up and build neural network code from scratch. And that's a very powerful skill and knowledge to have as well. But in light of all of this, Mohammed, the closing
Yeah.
point is this: you have to want to be a continual learner. If you become a data scientist or an AI specialist, you will be in constant learning mode.
Yes. So one thing, Tom, like in my experience also regarding this specific things that you mentioned, I agree with almost everything. And people generally nowadays are not giving that much importance that maths and statistics should get right now, because maybe they it may not be so important. They feel it's not that important, and they may be very good coders. They may be very good, but when we it comes to understanding these concepts, right? Because many people are, it requires time to understand basic mathematics and statistics that is used in every algorithms and why we are using that and what is the reason why we are using that, because that is only what distinguishes a data scientist from a software developer. And that is what generally I also tell people, whoever are there. And the second point that I agree with, like people who start their journey, they have to start from the basic algorithms first, because I know people who directly their first model was image recognition. Directly they the first model that they know Python, and they directly started with image recognition neural network model, and that is they are not able to you can say appreciate the all the data analysis that we do, the exploratory data analysis, that statistical test that we do, and we create a data and we do. So those are the skills that are really required. Running a image recognition is just few lines of Python code, and that is already available on the net, which is he just changes a little bit, and that is not how you learn about data science. So these are the things that I tell. Now, when you mentioned about the when I saw talk about experience, so when we discuss before coming to experience, I have one more question. You also mentioned about this. How important is a degree? I I I understand that people should do graduation if it even if it is a bachelor's degree, that is fine. But if a person wants to get into data science or analytics, do you think these master courses that are specific to AI, or do they help you become a good uh, data scientist? Compared, why I'm asking you, this if a degree compared to a degree, does real experience or a real project helps him to become a better, uh, more employable, more likely to get employed by some company? So according to these two, what do you think? And any suggestions on this?
Yeah, yeah. If you have a degree, um, it will improve your chances, especially a master's degree with some specialization in machine learning or data science. It will help you to get a job. It won't guarantee that you get a job. If you have a different type of degree and you start getting experience and building experience in machine learning and data science and AI, and you can demonstrate that experience, um, you definitely improve your chances of getting a job also. Um, for example, I'm looked at pretty equally with my engineering background, but my machine learning and AI experience, because I did some of that even in grad school, by the way. We just didn't have the name for it then.
Yeah,
And you had to choose a specific program. So if you have I should have said if you have a technical degree,
Yes.
you're going to be more likely to get a data science role. If you have a non-technical degree like Andrew Jones, but you've demonstrated that you have used machine learning and you got a job in it, and now, yes, I've had some experience, um, you you will do fine too. The best thing to do for, let's say, a new master's graduate is to be working on projects on the side. Um, I've met data scientists that are fresh out of graduate school. I'm not trying to say this of everyone that's done that route, and they're kind of arrogant sometimes because they have a data science degree or a machine learning degree, and I look at their insistence on their own terminology or their approaches, and I'm thinking, you're not very open-minded. You're not humble enough to listen to other people and think about better approaches. And I've had to work with PhDs even like this that weren't as old and as experienced in me, and they're very insistent that they're right, and they're dismissing me and not listening to me. I'm not saying I'm always right either, but don't dismiss me and not listen to me. That would be a mistake on your part. And so I think the person that's at a point of passion, they're getting the degree, and it doesn't, by the way, it doesn't even have to be in data science or machine learning. It could be in an engineering field, but in your research, you're using machine learning and AI to support the work you're doing in your research. That happens a lot, probably a lot more than people realize. And so that combined experience, but also demonstrating through blog posts and GitHub repos that you have some real good projects that demonstrate your command and knowledge of machine learning and AI, data science. That's the best combination.
Because what my experience has been with some of the students, specifically they are doing. We know that the academics part is there, right? You learn academics, you learn the theories. That is good enough. But when you're coming to, as you said, real projects, when you're trying to put that into real life problems, that becomes a challenge. Like you have good theoretical knowledge, you have a degree, but you need to get your hands dirty with the data. And now as we also discussed, you discussed that you should do projects. What type of projects do you recommend, and what is the source of projects that young graduates or young people who want to get into this field should actually do that helps them get recognized for that particular work or project for their potential employers?
I think starting with those good video courses, just going through the standard simple problems they introduce, that's really good first. Then there's a lot of toy data sets on sklearn, but those are a bit too simple, but they help you understand the mechanics of the coding. So in that sense, they're very good. But some of the ongoing competition projects on Kaggle, they have some serious real world dirty data that you have to work really hard to clean up to get good predictions. So I'd say, you know, get into that. And then as soon as you can, try, as you gain confidence with those competitions, try to enter the more serious competitions, the ones for money even, etc. You there's only one winner and second and third place, but what you learn from doing those, the way it pushes your coding skills. Hackathons, I've never done one myself, but I've been a judge for them, and they look very intense, but the people that involve in them learn a lot. And I think too, I have a lot of people that I respect on LinkedIn that I'm connected to that reach out to me wanting me to give them work so they can gain experience. And I always feel bad. I don't have anything for you because I'm focused on my professional role and my community development. So I don't have anything I can give you right now, but you're doing a good thing and keep doing that and these other things. So I think it's the demonstrated passion. I like the way Jefferson Taylor puts it. Find something you're passionate about it and work through it until you get it right and can really demonstrate it. And I don't mean just show the code. I'm not trying to insult anyone that writes blog posts or web articles, but a lot of people just repeat the same old toy cases. And I think it's good in your own Git repo and in articles or blog posts you might write to show how to go deeper. Just say, this was a real world project. I took it on for these reasons. I wanted to be good at this, and show the detailed steps. Even explain some of the problems you ran into and how you got around them. Because as you and I both know, Mohammed, half the battle's just getting a hold of the data and getting it right so we can get it into the models. Once you're at that point, it's not usually too hard to get the model working. It's all that front work to get the data going into the model and getting the model training appropriately. That's the real work.
Okay, so thanks, Tom, for that. So now suppose we someone does this project, they learn something, they are from all these hackathons and these practice course, and now they want to do something that they can put on their resume, something that they're like people ask, right? This I was discussing with you earlier on. The companies, most of the companies, they ask for experience, and freshers or people who don't have not worked in AI or data science, they don't have experience. So that is like a chicken and egg situation, which came first. So in that case, like if they have to put experience, so I tell them generally to do some good project that is a little bit unique to something that you like, or suppose you are in a particular domain, according to that domain, some business case that you want to solve, try to get the data from from an API or some open source, and then try to build something. So, and this is like a project that can also be something unique that is not been available on any platform as such, and you do all the data work as well, and then you are able to show that as an experience or as an internship, and then talk about that in an interview. Because generally what happens in such interviews, people ask you, tell me about your project, and this can be a good conversational talk that will be there. So what are your thoughts on this particular, a project that is specific that a person can put on his resume as a internship for 3 months, or something which he can also talk about in his interviews?
Can I speak directly to your listeners instead of to
Yes,
you?
sure.
Listeners of Mohammed Arshad's show, I wouldn't change a thing he just said. That's exactly what I would say. And in fact, Mohammed, I've used that. In fact, even those take-home interview projects you get, I've used those as some of my experience when I didn't get an offer for that role. And I just talked. I did this for a company recently. Blah blah blah. I didn't say who. I just said I did this for them, and but it was real work, And I gained a lot of experience writing the code and optimizing it and stuff like that. So it's a big deal to be able to do that and to keep doing it and build really good uh, projects that way, um, and build up a really nice GitHub or
Yes.
Git in the cloud, I should say, not just GitHub. I use a lot of DAGs Hub too, but when people can go to your online Git repos and see a beautiful notebook with text and equations and images and videos, and you name it. They realize, oh, I got an interview that way once because someone took the trouble to go look at my repos, said,
Oh, nice.
oh, wow. And it got me the interview. I'm glad I didn't get the role because that company started laying off my friends that were there. But still, it's more about getting the interviews, right?
Yeah. So nowadays, actually, there is the opportunity is a lot. So much data is out there, so many options, opportunities to do projects. Uh, it is out there. It is just for the people to get correct mentorship, to get the proper guidance, so that they can channel their thoughts. As we all know, that too much information is there. As you also know, online and everywhere, people are talking so many things. There are so many distractions. Correct. You may also see everywhere some of the other new things are coming. Now people are talking about. They're asking me how to become prompt engineers. I really don't know this particular term. It's a very recent term that I also heard after ChatGPT. And how to keep focus in this distracted world wherein every time something new is coming. And now to be to be it's something like after GPT, then after this November 2022, these news has become more and more like it's like a release. Every 1 or 2 months, something new comes up. And how to for us it is okay, we are experienced, we know our foundations, but for people who are new to this industry and are still learning and are getting more and more distracted, and how what is your
Yes.
advice for them to stay focused?
This is a great question, and I'm really glad you asked it because uh, to the listeners, we had a pre-talk, but we didn't really talk about this one. And I'm very fortunate to have the ability to work with leadership that knows what the heck I'm doing, and they will question me, but it's so that they can understand better. They will sometimes redirect me based on priorities, but they trust me. They trust my know-how and knowledge. And so I'm very excited to tell you my executive vice president that I work very closely with, he had me and a few other analytical people in our strategic analytics group investigate how could we in our current work benefit from chat gpt. So we each spent a few hours just investigating how we could do that. And it was very instructive. And we walked away with it's pretty cool, but the hype makes it sound better than it is. And so I think I would encourage your listeners to go at it this way. I still need to learn the basics. But when I'm taking a study break or, I'm on the train or I'm on I've got time, I'll start investigating Chat GPT because maybe there's some ways I can use it in the ways that I'm interested in doing. But it's not going to solve everything all at once. Um, Let me put it to you this way. When I was doing my PhD research, I wanted to come up with a system that would not just optimize the parameters for a given hybrid vehicle power plant, but I wanted it to also figure out what was the best architecture. And then I realized the only way for it to figure out what the best architecture is for me to propose different architectures because it can't architect something. Now, that was almost 30 years ago now. And I'm looking here and saying, what can these huge AI machines, these math machines like ChatGPT, what can they not do? They can't architect a solution. They can write summary research very well, probably better than us. You might have to go in and fix some grammar and edit some things, but they cannot be problem solvers. That's where humans still shine. That's where data scientists should focus their careers. I need to be an expert problem solver. ChatGPT, some of the elements of the overall OpenAI tools, like the sandbox, maybe I don't want to take the time to go write this particular function that fits in this architecture. I'll let ChatGPT propose a good piece of code for that. But as far as fitting it into the overall architecture, I need to do that. I hope that gives encouragement to those that might be scared because of Chat GPT. No, For a human that wants to do advanced, creative, problem-solving work, you're safe. Just keep developing those problem-solving skills.
Okay, so now coming now this word everyone is talking about in every interviews as well. So are you using ChatGPT? Is it really, is it helping you? Do you think, is it helping you right now in your daily tasks, or is it reducing your time or making you more productive, or it's just a tool?
It Because of the type of work I do and because of the kind of emphasis I have when I post on LinkedIn or anything like that, no, not at all. Um, Now, I'm not saying it doesn't have a place to possibly help me. I've been saving articles and little video snippets of how I can make potential better use of it. But from what I see, as far as on, if we consider ourselves scientists, Mohammed, which I do consider you and I scientists, just in the numerical analytical realm, is ChatGPT really able to help us push the envelope? No. Now, if we need to research a new topic, would I consider using it to help me learn faster? Absolutely. Yeah, I would. Like, you know how much better it is. You've studied all these sources, but you've been keeping careful notes, and then you even rewrite your notes. And then as you practice the material, you rewrite your notes again with examples. And now those notes are far more important than anything else you read because they apply to the way you're thinking, the way you needed to use the
Yes.
material. Well, the value of those notes came from the work of the studying and everything. As far as collecting all those materials and giving you that first dose of what you need to learn, I think ChatGPT is a great tool for that. And that's just one example. But if I were to write up everything I'd learned and accomplished, would I give credit to ChatGPT as one of my sources? Absolutely. In fact, I think to not do that would be criminal. If I use AI to help in my learning and growth and development of a tool or a system, I'm going to give it credit. To me, I treat it kind of like an entity, a party, a person almost. Um, but to make it, it can't be the final architect. At least it doesn't have that ability yet. It would be a major breakthrough in general AI for an AI to architect something, to solve a problem. That's way beyond what we're seeing right now.
Yeah, Tom, you also told about something about notes and in our previous conversations as well, right? And about the importance of writing your codes that you are learning in a place so that you refer it, and that will
Yes.
make you remember. And before going to Google or ChatGPT to get that piece of code, you should go and see that in your notes, in your what I called as handy code, you may call it something else, wherein you document your codes like how to do this particular activities, the basic activities that we do in every data projects, the main ones that are there, because you have written that yourself, and so you know what are the details that are going inside. So what are your, because nowadays what I know what people are doing, they're not even writing any piece of code by themselves. First thing that they're doing is they're Googling it, and they are taking that code and then putting it and then changing it accordingly. This is what many of the new coders are doing, which I feel is will not make you learn by the logic building steps and the syntaxes that are there in any language for that case. So what are your thoughts on that?
So I'm actually okay with people doing that. Um, I'll be honest. I would start coding on my own, and I'd hit a hurdle or a wall,
Mm.
and I would Google it. I would web search it, and most of the time I would go to Stack Overflow. Over
Mhm.
time, I've learned to appreciate Geeks for Geeks and W3 Schools. Some people I've heard that I really respect. I've heard them diss W3 schools. I would not do that. They're very good at
Yeah.
teaching you some basics. Um, anyway, Geeks for Geeks. And then there's some other good sites I recognize in my search. Every once in a while, I'll try some others. But it doesn't, it won't always work, is what I found. Sometimes your need is a little specialized and you need to go experiment with it away from your big application in a small code snippet until you get it right. And then you sew it back in function or class wise into your bigger code. Well, it's like you said, even if I found the solution on Stack Overflow, I put it in what you call your handy code, or I call my Thom Overflow instead of Stack Overflow. And it's a carefully arranged set of directories
Yes.
that are by topic. And they're usually about Python, but not always. I have them for JavaScript now too, uh, you name it. But I I think being able to web search fast to get your answer to use pre-existing code is smart. But if that's all you ever do, you're limiting yourself. And so having this handy code, your insert your name overflow, a set of directories with code you've developed, a code. In fact, there's been times, Mohammed, where I thought, I need to experiment. And I'll go experiment with code to see what are the limits of how I can use classes. What's a more creative way that I thought maybe I can use a class this way, and I've never seen anyone do that. Occasionally, I get to questions that no one has asked and no one has tried. And I've even put some of those in Stack Overflow. I've posed the question, or I've posed the answer, or I've done both. And that's just been, I just realized at a certain point, Mohammed, it's time for me to give back now. I have an answer that helped the community. So I'll go and I'll read a Stack Overflow question, the answers, and I realize none of the answers worked for me, but I found something that worked. And then I'll give credit to the other answers, but say, in my particular case, they didn't work. I tried this. And then some of those have gotten me some really good upvotes on Stack Overflow, which is another good way to get noticed by industry when you're looking for a role, is to have a good Stack Overflow reputation.
One more thing I wanted to ask, what are your thoughts about there are few organizations like Omdena, AI for Good, wherein they are looking for, or you can say some open source contributors where people who are don't have any experience can apply and try to get some visibility. So these are the two names that I know. Anything else and specific? Because the main challenge, as I was telling you, is for people who are struggling to at least get their first experience. And these are some of the easy sources wherein if you have a good knowledge about this, whatever we discussed, a good project to show, then there are chances to get hired as a contributor or in this open this AI for good type initiatives, wherein you are doing something for the environment or society. So what are your thoughts on that? Uh, because I'm sure it helps, right, to build a profile or to show that you have done more towards contributing towards this domain and getting your chances to get employed.
No, I think that's great, but I would encourage, let's focus on the AI for good. That's
Yes.
great. But don't think that's the only thing you could do. For example, I noticed a lack of material on a full breadth of here's your Python code.
Mm,
Now let's put it either in an API
mm,
or as a web app.
mm,
Now let's put that in a Docker container. Now let's serve it from the cloud. I didn't see any full examples of any of that. So I wrote one and I started writing posts for it on LinkedIn. And they were very popular because there wasn't really anything out there. What I'm saying is, your AI for good can be seeing a hole or a need in the community for material that's not there and go learn it yourself, battle through getting through all the steps, and then present it to the community. In fact, you could even end up authoring a book that way. And one of the reasons I've been posting less on LinkedIn is what I'm working on now is highly proprietary. Even if I generalized it, I would kind of be giving away what I'm doing strategy wise at my company. And I very much value my company and the work we're doing. So I've been trying to think I need a new creative outlet to still help the community without revealing the proprietary stuff I'm doing at my company. And so and also for my community. So but that aside, as you're learning something, share it, because usually what I've seen, people that are learning something, they're doing a good job learning it, and they write it up well and they share it like in a PDF or something with the community. It's very highly appreciated, and it gets you attention.
Nice. Now, one more thing that was in my mind is you told about mathematics topics. If what are your thoughts about statistical topics and how important and relevant it is nowadays? Because some nowadays people say that inferential statistics before why I'm telling you this, because there are some thoughts that people talk to me that before there was computational power, there was some limitation. That's why we used to do sampling and do all the inferential statistics to make sure that the sample is properly representing the but nowadays, because of the computational power, these things some people say are not that relevant and not that important. uh, but I feel that these topics are still very important, the basic ones that are there, that is giving you foundations. But what are your thoughts on this basic statistical concepts that are there, the inferential, the central limit theorem, and all those things?
When I hear fellow data scientists trying to downplay probability and statistics, I want to stand up and scream as politely as possible, stop right there. This is not wise what you're doing. You can only enhance your understanding of data science, machine learning, fuzz, all of it, by understanding probability and statistics better and how it directly applies to what we do. To say otherwise is to leave yourself with fewer insights. Now, do we always have time to dive into the depths of it for every problem? No, we don't. But a lot of times, looking at it more from a statistical point of view rather than a machine learning point of view gives incredibly good insights. And you might remember some posts I wrote for LinkedIn where I
Yeah.
showed doing machine learning purely from statistical tools. And I did that for myself because something didn't set right with me when I heard data scientists downplaying statistics. I think what might be happening, because I know I've done this myself in the past, you don't feel very good in a certain area, but you're realizing, oh, I can get the work done without knowing that part very well. And that may be true, but now you may be missing some insights or some key power in your analysis by not understanding that part of it. For example, if someone wanted to go through life and not appreciate, they're using PCA a lot, but they're not really grabbing the significance of the eigenvalues and eigenvectors and how the spaces transform between one another, they're missing the boat. They're missing the bigger boat. And I think always, as you have time, try to go deeper. Uh, I, I could go on and on. I don't
I
want
know,
to
no.
go on,
So
but
yeah,
that,
so I
yeah, I
think
think this is
we
very
have
important to
time. Yeah,
don't feel like you got to learn all the statistics all at once. Learn what
yes,
you can and how it relates to the analytical techniques you're learning at the time.
yes. And yes, and to how you can why are we learning that? How we are simplifying those things? Because now, see, applied learning is very different from theoretical learning that we go for your universities. Here, whatever we are learning in statistics, we have to also have that applied knowledge, like where are we applying this and what is the importance of central limit theorem and all the essays distribution. So that is people should spend the time why this, why not t-test, why not z-test. So that is the reason you have to go a little deeper in these things, and which is very important for that. So I know we're running, we have very few minutes. Any final thoughts or advices for people who are listening to how they can focus on getting some experience and getting the chances for getting a job more? Any final thoughts for the?
Yeah, for the new people, I would really encourage quality over quantity. Let me clarify that. Um, it took thousands of intellectual man years for us to get to where we are today. And so, as you're learning, if you struggle with some of the materials, yeah, that was going to happen. You know what? It's hard. It is hard intellectually, but just broaden your resources. Look, read from more materials when you get stuck. In other words, kind of go around the mountain. Look at more resources. It'll start to sink into your head. You'll start to get insights. And then when you actually apply the methods a few times and really think about it, you'll get stronger and stronger. So, and think of it, don't think of your learning as one dimensional. Okay, I'm just learning uh, how to use the code, the libraries, the modules. No, you know, try to develop those modules. Well, try to develop the tools from scratch without using the modules. That's another dimension. That's the depth on each topic. But then there's a third axis, and that is, can you effectively transfer, excuse me, your knowledge to other people so that they're enhanced in their knowledge? Now you're a 3D learner, and keep developing those 3D learning skills. But if you will focus on concepts and quality of understanding in the beginning, you will accelerate yourself over time. If you rush through the material and just try to learn more about how to use the modules, but don't really understand the depth, you'll struggle. You will eventually struggle and you'll lack conceptual insight. So I think just in the beginning, quality over quantity, go 3D on the basics, and then you will really accelerate with your conceptual knowledge.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Very wonderful advice. And it was great talking to you. And I'm sure the listeners would have gained a lot from this conversation. And have a great day and talk to you soon.
Thanks, Mohammed. It was great being with you.
Take care.